All right, Jeff here, fly fishing the flatlands. So I'm going to tie another one of my quick and easy flies, and this is a bass fly. I mean, you could use it for all sorts of things, but I primarily use it for largemouth bass, and it's an adaptation of the Seaducer, which is saltwater fly. I've kind of mixed that up with the complex twist woolly booger that you see. You may have seen a version of that over at Fly Fish Food. So let's go ahead and get this started. I use a size 2, at least on this one. This is a fairly big one. This is a size 2 lightning strike stinger hook, and I like this hook. It's not super heavy wire, and the reason I like that is that it doesn't make the fly sink real fast. I like this fly to kind of suspend in the water column a little bit. It works a lot like the old Sluggo plastic, jerkbait. It just kind of hangs there and you can work it. And so I'm starting out here with some UTC 140. You can go much heavier on this fly. I just happen to have a bobbin loaded up with some black in UTC 140. And I figured I'd do that. So I'm going to work kind of back here towards the back of the fly. And so then the other materials I've got here, well, let's see, the tail is going to be some purple rooster saddles, long rooster saddles. I'm going to add in on the tail some purple flashaboo. Then the body is going to be made out of this dyed black polar chenille, black UV. And I'm going to twist that up with some purple schlappen. So first thing we got to do is make the tail. What I've done is I've already picked out some and kind of trimmed to size some of the saddle hackles, right? And I'm just going to kind of look at that. I like it to be about 1.5 times the hook shank length. And so I'm just going to kind of tie that in. You want to be careful as you tie this in. Don't put a ton of tension. See how that rotated over the top right there? If you go slow, don't drag that over the top. Then it won't drag that, so it'll stay parallel to the hook shank, right? And you can tie this 2 ways. You can tie it convex in or convex out. You can make them splay out depending on the natural kind of bend of the thing, or you can make them bend in. I'm making them bend in. If you want a little kicking action, you can get strongly curved saddle hackles, and I find that that's like definitely on like hen hackle. Long saddle hackles are a little stiffer in the stem is stiffer, and so it tends to stick out more. And if you want to make one that has more like kick, you can do that. So I'm just going to kind of make sure those are more or less the same length, and I'm going to hold them on the opposite side over there. And again, I kind of tie that in. Make sure they're not getting twisted around by thread tension drag, right? Thread tension will sometimes pull things around in a way that you don't want. So once I've got those in, I'm just gonna tie them in fairly nice there, and then come in and cut these butts off and bind it down real good. You might put a dab of super glue right here to kind of help keep it held together. If you're fishing, especially if you're fishing for something like pike, it would tear it up. Now I'm going to add some purple flash glue right here. A little something to get the bass's attention, maybe from a little bit of distance, but also for just the old curb appeal, right? Or I mean bin appeal. Let me get this tied in. Still a little bit of a learning how to tie with a camera between me and the vise. I'm really having to reach So once I've got that on there, I just more or less roughly trim it down to the same, a little bit, just about the same or a little bit shorter than the tails. Okay, that's good. Now, here's the part that really I like about this, and what makes it a whole lot easier, in my opinion, to tie than, say, just a standard Seaducer, is that I'm gonna, instead of, you know, trying to make a real nice, neat winding forward, some hackle, I'm just gonna skip that entirely, and I'm gonna use the complex twist method to do this. So first thing I'm gonna do is tie in some of this black polar chenille, and then you could tie in like 2 colors of polar chenille. You could, like, I've got some purple polar chenille that would probably look cool mixed in with this. You know, kind of the sky's the limit on this stuff. You don't want to get too much, it'll start getting too thick at some point. But the next thing I'm going to use is just a piece of schlappen. Nice webby schlappen. Very, very webby. And I'm going to tie that in. No need to be super gentle here. I'll pluck that stem in, tip off. Okay, now I'm going to wind this forward, throw a half hitch in there, get my bobbin rest. Now, next thing you're going to need some sort of dubbing twister. I've got this loon version that you can switch out. It's got the alligator tip. You can also, it's got the regular like little shepherd's crook type thing that you can screw in and out. And I'm gonna clip these together, and then I'm gonna give that a nice clockwise spin. The one thing you definitely want to do, make sure that it doesn't try to grab those. See, there it is. It'll try to grab your flashaboo when you're spinning this up, so you kind of want to get that flashaboo out of the way. But anyway, I'm going to give this a nice clockwise spin. Sort of ropes this up. You can see it's kind of marrow buoy at the front. Doesn't matter. I kind of like it that way. All right. So I've made basically a dubbing rope out of this, or a dubbing loop almost. It's a cheater's way to make a dubbing loop, right? Like you can make a complex loop, you know, when you're making intruders and stuff like that. Then just wind this stuff forward. Now, it really helps to preen this stuff back. Right. It helps it lay a little better, but it doesn't have to be super perfect. This is a very buggy pattern. Okay, I've got that where I want it. Get my bobbin, make a couple wraps here, and then we'll cut off the excess here. All right. So I kind of preen that back away from the head just a little bit. Right. Get it secured down, kind of push some of this junk back. All right. Then I'm just going to build up a head. This is where using a heavier thread would make a big difference. You build up a head a lot faster. You can put eyes on this if you want to. You know, build up a little head here. Get you some eyes, build a little head, and put the eyes on and build up the head with UV resin. I don't do that on these because, like I said, I like these to be a fast and simple tie. All right, I just want to be able to crank these out. And the nature of a lot of this warm water fishing is that you can't see what's under the surface. The water's kind of murky. You're going to lose flies. And, you know, I like to tie, you know, something like a game changer. It's cool to tie. It looks cool. It looks awesome in the water. And the minute you hang it up on a log and lose it, after spending 45 minutes tying this super complicated articulated fly, you're gonna be just, well, luckily most of the time you can, if it's not deep, you can just go get it if you really, really want to do that. If you're willing to swim for it, you can always get your fly back. Depends on how deep it is, I suppose, how strong the current is. But I like to tie simple, kind of expendable flies that I don't really care that much if I lose them. I haven't spent 30 minutes on this. I've spent a lot more time than usual because I'm talking about it. So this is my version of the Seaducer, complete with a complex twist. You might call it Sweetwater Seaducer. Makes a good bass fly. Unweighted, jerk it around through the water, especially on an intermediate tip line. Fish really like it. See it, that nice kind of neutrally